Hey, folks, welcome to Life After Addiction Indictment. Today, I've got a gentleman who's got a vast experience in the world of business, and I'm just excited to have on Cesar Wurm. Is that correct, Cesar? I meant to ask you about your last name.
Yeah,
Wurm, right?
Cesar Wurm, yeah.
Well, excellent. And well, welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking the time to be here today.
Thank you, Steve. I'm thrilled. Been following your podcast for quite a few months now, and super excited to be here. So thank you for the opportunity and for all the work you're doing in this space.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you listening. That means a lot to me. And like we said, like you mentioned before we started recording, it's a lot more open discussion these days than certainly it was back when I was in my addiction. Not so much that it's acceptable, but it's more understood, I think, is really what we're dealing with. And well, let's start out a little bit with talking about your background. How did you grow up, and when did you find yourself dealing with alcohol or drugs, and kind of what you went through? And
so I'm originally from Brazil. I was born in Brazil, and I grew up there. I left there when I was 17.
Okay.
And I had a pretty good, childhood for, most cases, good loving parents. I have a brother, fairly stable house, but, my dad is an alcoholic. And so to me, growing up, alcohol is normal, right? I mean, it was normalized. What shouldn't have been normalized, right? I mean,
right.
An excessive amount, and it's daily, and so that's kind of a perspective, and and then really, I experimented with alcohol really early age, right? I'm not really sure when was my first sip or anything, but probably around 9 or something around that, just taste, and, tasted horrible as beer.
Yes.
But, like probably most people, right? The first drinks or most drinks doesn't taste that great. But then
I often say that I'm glad it tasted so nasty, because if it hadn't have, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you, mixing it with, the opiates. So
that is true. That is true, right? Yeah, it has the taste and then the aftermath, right? That makes you suffer too when you overdo it.
Yeah.
And then I just recall, now that you asked me this, I recall I was like in my cousin's house. I don't know, I was probably 12, 13 is my guess, but remember going to the cabinet when everyone was asleep in this big room and sipping some sweet liquor or something, right? So clearly, not normal behavior, but so anyway, my I had a pretty big trauma. I think around 12, my mom passed. I was pretty sudden death, and we're close. She was a wonderful woman, very loving, and then we didn't deal that very well as a family, right? Never really process that, got help. But so I think certainly that didn't help. But anyway, so I was then, being social drinking throughout high school and college. And then, of course, right, it starts to enhancing, right? I mean, I don't know about your journey, it'd be good to learn a little bit. But it was always a lot, right? To me, a lot. I was like blacking out. It was normal to me, and all that. And so I was a very heavy drinker within social environments until probably until around 30. And then that's when.
Were you fairly functional when you were, intoxicated, or until obviously you black out, I guess?
Yeah, so during that time was mostly drinking really, evenings, right? And then, yes, very functioning. And then every night we drink a lot, get drunk, and, that cycle, but never during the day. But then around 30 or so, it became, right, during the day, at work, before work. And then it got really bad. It was like my breakfast, right? I would stop. I'd be driving to work. I would stop in Publix, get a, white
Isn't that insane to look at now that we were like that? I mean, because that was the first thing I did when I woke up, pop some pills,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And,
just crazy to look back at
probably
that.
like you, then my entire day I was planning around, hey, how I can get
Jeez.
that fix, right?
Amen.
And so you plan everything, work, then family
A
life,
second job.
getting that. Yeah. And then it really got out of control when my wife got pregnant and we had our daughter. She's now 12. And then it was really bad during those 2-3 years. And then that's when, I started to working towards my sobriety, and thankfully now has been 8 years.
Was there a specific trigger or event that made you really just say, hey, that's enough, I've got to get sober?
Yeah.
Or was it internally you just had enough?
Yeah. Hey, and it's interesting that you asked that, because I actually just I'm doing a DNA test because I'm very curious to understand all these biomarkers. So there's a new test I can share with you later, the results and how it works. Because to your point, never understood what's the trigger and when is enough, right? Is that what is choice, what's not choice? So I always, even from my journey, I still don't have clarity on that. But specifically to your question is, thankfully, I never really, in comparison to many addicts, like you probably know, I didn't have my rock bottom wasn't anywhere near some others, right? I didn't lose job, never got a DUI, don't know how, right? Never got in a car wreck. My wife stayed with me and really is a key,
We're two of the very lucky few, my friend.
Man, it's amazing. So I don't know how she stuck with me and really
thank
helped
God
me
every
through
day
this.
that's the
Yeah.
case, because both of us, based on what I'm hearing, both
For
of
you
us
too?
shouldn't.
No.
I've been married 32 years and my wife stuck with me through it. And not
Wow.
only that, but my other part of my story too, and prison.
Yeah.
So we're an anomaly, I think, you and
Yeah.
I.
I agree. Yeah, very, very blessed. And
Yeah.
and then to me, I think the big thing was when I woke up one day, right? When like you can't hide anymore, you can't lie to yourself anymore that this is normal, right? You start shaking and you're having effects in your life that hey, this is not end up well, right?
Yeah.
But then really what got to me, I was looking at my daughter, she was I think 3. And then I said, man, you're doing the same thing that you despise your dad for, right? All the pain, all the hurt that you felt as a child, that anger, you're just doing that to your daughter. And I said, I'm not going to do that, right? She doesn't deserve that. And I want to be able to look my family in the eye and be proud of the guy I am, not be ashamed, right? And living a double life. So that is, to me, that is really kind of the turning point. Do you recall yours? Did you have one?
Mine lasted for quite some time. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And, I was, tired of, letting people down. And again, when you have kids and, you've grown up a certain way and know the importance of family and know that you're making choices that putting it all at risk, but I got to the point where even though I was still functioning, I didn't feel great most of the time, and it just, there was days I would drive to work literally crying, like, cause I didn't know how to get out of it,
Yeah.
And it just gets, gets so old, but, it took a little while, certainly. I did have one experience that I thought was going to, that literally scared me to where I was straight and done.
Yeah.
But I think I talked about it on one of my early podcasts, but I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease and had a small bowel resection in 1987. And that's how I really got started taking them. I had never really abused them much before that at all. And but anyways, I was driving to meet a buddy one day down at the golf course to hit some balls. And one of the roads I go down turns onto a main road right at the mouth of a canyon called Provo Canyon. And then I head south for a few miles. And right as I made that turn, coming down to the east to turn south on this main, avenue at the golf course, I went numb literally from my neck down. And that day I'd taken a bunch of different types of pills, whatever. And And it was so weird because it's like I had this out of body experience. I had like this vision of seeing my car sitting on the side of the road with me in it.
Wow.
And I mean, it freaked me out. By the time I got to the golf course, I was a wreck.
Yeah.
And so my buddy and I drove to my gastroenterologist's house. I knew him well enough that I could do that, knew where he lived. And he had some party going on, and he lived in a gated community. And so he talked to me through the speaker system.
Yeah.
And he said he called up his internist friend and said he would get me in a few days. But in the meantime, he told my gastro to write me a prescription of 8 OxyContin, which I had never heard of oxys at that time. They were very new at that time. Oh. And so here it was such a mind bender, because here I was scared to death that I was ready to be done.
Yeah.
Tell my doc what's up and everything. And then it's like that light that went totally red to stop started to get yellow, and then even going back to green.
Yeah.
And when I met with the internist, he said, it seems like you're medicating for mild depression, and so we'll wean you off and we'll add some antidepressants and blah, blah, blah. And, we all know how that works. It doesn't work. It's all or nothing, especially with opiates,
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why it lasted for another couple of years, actually. And I got way worse,
Yeah.
Because then I justified and created that story in my head, which is the trick of everything.
Yeah.
Is that I need them,
Yeah.
And then it's okay. It's not a problem. And that's such a lie, which, and I don't fault that internist, he's doing the best he could based on the knowledge and the way he trained, I don't have any resentments or anything there at all. I think it's a conversation that needs to be more in the norm in the medical community, instead of, it seems like when the opiate quote epidemic became in the public eye and talked about that, then it went to such an extreme, and there are definitely, I'm sure, people that were seriously in pain or had their whatever their issues were that would need, something to help them at times, that probably got turned down. Many people got turned down because it went so far the other way. So it's a tricky balance, It is. And I think it's something that, just like you said earlier on, it needs to be discussed more, not even about the abuser and the addicts, but the professional community on how to really, know and deal with things. It's a tricky deal. It's a balance. It's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're spot on, because, like you have had, especially, like therapists or whatever, right? That you go in the beginning, you're trying to figure out what's going on, and you can see some get it and get it very well, and others have no clue. And to your point, right? They're not trying to harm you or anything, but it can send you in a wrong path very quickly and help you.
Absolutely.
Just find that in your mind, hey, listen, an expert told me that it's okay to go out and have some wine tonight,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing with both alcohol, drugs. I mean, you're talking about consequences that are deadly.
Yeah.
And so, it's hard to know. But if you're a doctor, and you're questioning if someone is playing the game, because I know all that, I've played it a bit, then don't give them a full prescription or something,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that means you're dealing with somebody more often, but you can, after a little bit, you can get a sense if you're paying attention, to what's truly going on. And so I think there has to be a level of empathy, but there has to be also the trust, but verify, whatever that balance is. I mean, I'm glad I'm not in their shoes, but, but I think they have to put a human face on it. And just because they've heard horror stories and, of this or that, when it comes to the games that drug addicts can play.
Yeah.
Like I say, you just have to consider questioning what your belief is, I think, and then deciding if it's the benefit of the doubt with this person, or if I'm pretty darn sure they're an addict, then maybe I'm just going to give them a couple, whatever, even if it's just some samples. They probably don't do that like they used to either, probably, though.
Yeah, probably.
So, but anyway, I don't have the answer. It needs to be something that's considered and really you can't be, I guess the bottom line is don't be in such a hurry that you're really not trying to focus on the person to understand the
That's
truth.
well said. Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer, but but the wrong answer seems is what's happened, because it definitely has definitely caused people that definitely needed it to go without, I'm sure, way
Yes.
too
Oh
often.
yeah. Yeah. It's definitely people that needed that got hurt with all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So great. So when you got sober,
Uh-huh.
what was that like as far as from an alcoholic? I know a little bit, because I
Yeah.
know that if you stop alcohol 100% and don't get some help, you definitely can have some problems and potentially death, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You're right.
what was your experience like?
Yeah. Yeah. It was tough. So went through, when I realized, hey, I want to quit, right? Um, I really wasn't successful, or in my view, didn't take the right approach until I fully realized that, hey, where I kind of took full responsibility and acknowledged that, hey, listen, I just can't do it, right? It's not that, hey, I can do this once a week or just have a glass. All that, like, it's just doesn't work, or didn't work for me. So so I just had to go, cold turkey. And but then I had a couple of relapses. I started going to AA. And then in the beginning, had a lot of bias and shame, right?
Yeah.
And you still kind of thinking, hey, and then you go in the meetings and you hear some stuff, say, man, I'm not as messed up as these people here, right? It's like, these people are really messed up. I'm
That's
messed
right.
up, but so you go through that period. So it's kind of doing the program, whatever's convenient. And to your point, right, just kind of how you work yourself through every day, and you mislead people, or you work your angles to keep doing what you're doing. I was still carrying that behavior right into the
Yeah.
program, and clearly, like, right, doesn't work. So I had a couple of relapses, and then I remember when it was a change for me to really get sober and stay sober. And it was funny, I was working in Florida at the time, and I had interviewed for a job, and I was really excited about the job, and I felt really good, right? I said, hey, I think I'm gonna get this job. And then I think I was like, they're supposed to call me, and so anyway, the day I was expect to hear the answer, whatever happened, I assumed that, hey, I'm not getting the job, right? For no reason, I just assumed the worst, and
Can relate to that.
so of course, what happens, right? Then I feel so sorry about about poor Cesar, and
Sorrows.
let me go and get a fix.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I start drinking. It came that later on they gave me the job. So then I started drinking to celebrate. and then that day I was driving home, and I called Laura, my wife Laura, and then she, as soon as said hi, she knew. She said, hey, did you drink? And usually I would lie and say, no, what do you mean? I didn't drink. So I said, yes, like I drank, and I was 6 months sober at that point, so I was relapsing. And then she said, says, Cesar, I get it. I see that you're really trying, and I see that you're doing your best, and I'm going to help you. And I don't know, when she said that, it's just a piece came down on me, and she asked, hey, park the car, I'm gonna go get you. And I don't know, at that point, something kind of, I don't know, like the feeling, that was it. Then I knew,
man,
is right.
Geez, for anyone listening, I can tell you what, I mean, to have a spouse respond like that when you're already beating yourself up, the fact that you were honest and then got that response had to make you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah.
And you've got,
a great way to put it.
you got someone that's there to help you. And then of course you don't want to let her down because she's coming your way to help out.
Yeah.
To me, that's probably something people listening who, are the spouse.
Yeah.
May not easy respond that way, but once again, though, you had shown effort, so that made a
Yeah,
big difference too, you know.
yeah, yeah.
And wow,
It's
that's
yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, it is power. It's giving me chills now just thinking about that. And and also leading to that, I think what really started to get to me as to why I had to change that, she turned to me once, and right about that time I decided, said, man, I said, I don't know who you are anymore. She said,
Wow.
you're definitely not the person I married. And then,
Wow.
like that just kills you.
Yep.
And then you just kind of start thinking, man, just the pain, and I don't know, like you probably, I have a lot of regrets, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
but listen, you can go back and change, right? The things you've done, how you hurt people, but
Right.
certainly just try to, fix and then do better.
Yep.
Certainly something that but yeah, I think having, very fortunate to have that support system and someone that was easily the easiest way for her. So like, screw you, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm done
Oh
with
yeah.
you. But to say that, I think, yeah, I think you uncover there. I think it's just that, wow, someone gets, someone understands, and you're not alone, right? And
Yep.
you're loved, and yeah.
Well, I think that's huge right there, saying, you're loved, because, when we're doing what we're doing, we've already beat ourselves up so much that, if we're being honest, we've stopped loving ourselves,
Yeah.
and that's the tough thing that you got to learn how to get back to too, because otherwise
Yeah.
you're not going to be a whole lot of successful getting, staying sober, but you're also never going to really be able to truly love other people the way that, that we should, just
Yeah.
human to human, even let alone, spouse and children.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, that's awesome that she did that. So then have you been sober since then?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Thankfully, yes.
congrats. That's awesome.
That has been fantastic. Yeah. So then the next early morning, she took me to a meeting. At the time, my sponsor, great guy, and then you could see, like, like the just, regardless of what you think of a 12-step program, or it works for some, it doesn't for others, but just being there and having all these strangers that didn't know me, right, go to
Yep.
completely different location on a Saturday early morning just to support me, right, and help save my life.
Nothing like
That
it.
was like, that was touching, man. And like, that's like, I don't know many things nowadays, many engagements that you have that almost, I don't know, is unconditional love, but you have love
Dude,
for people that are strangers that,
I've said there's truly, I don't think there's anything like it.
yeah,
I grew up in a religion, and I
yeah,
used to often use that analogy as like, okay, even if it's not the religion I'm in, most
yeah,
Christian religions have the similar beliefs. So if you're trying to be Christ-like and you walk into the meeting where, the whole area is there,
yeah,
why is there so much judgment? Why
yeah,
is there so much gossip? But yet an AA meeting has more Christ-like love, an unconditional love,
yeah,
than
yeah,
any religious building I've ever been in. It's, and like you said, it's from every walk of life that most likely without that setting, you may not ever interact with those people, which is also
yes,
really crazy when you really think about it, because we don't know each other's stories. We don't know where we've come from. The person I'm still guilty of it some days, I'm not going to lie. The person that I'm judging for whatever reason, man, I don't know what the hell they're
yeah,
doing with,
yeah,
and so it's something that, I've often said it more recently, is because of where the world's at is, that's what's missing in
yeah,
this planet, is we just need to have more love for each other, because we're
yeah,
way more alike than we are different.
yes,
It doesn't matter
yeah,
what country, doesn't matter what religion, what race, none of that stuff matters. We're all brothers and sisters in my view,
yeah,
you
well
know?
said. Yeah. And and to your point, like, everyone is going through a personal struggle, right? Either,
So true.
internal, or through, someone that's close to you, family, or a close friend. And it's interesting when I posted, so I haven't been like uber open about my sobriety, is still mostly because of self-bias, right? I mean,
Yep.
you know, that shame that, you know, and I think when I really learned to own it, you know, and say, listen, you know, this is who you are, this is what happened, you know, and you just gotta own, accept, and project, right, who you want to be, how you want to be. And I think it really opened up a lot. So like in December, when I became 8 years sober, I posted on LinkedIn. Is the only social media I'm really active.
Smart man.
And man, you wouldn't believe the response you get from
I know
people
what the
that
response you got was.
you know
It's highly
that,
positive.
yeah, highly positive, and you know, and people that you work with that
And it got
have,
more engagement than any post you've ever posted, I'll bet.
yes sir, by like
I,
multifold.
I
Yeah,
teach that. That's called vulnerability and authenticity, and that's what
yeah,
we're all starving for.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
we all
yeah,
have these facades and believe
yeah,
that everybody else is better or doesn't have the
yeah,
problems. And so when someone opens up, and I'm also
yeah,
going to guess this, that it lifted a weight off your shoulders.
yeah. Oh,
I mean,
that is
it's a
your
beautiful thing, dude.
yeah, you're spot on. It's just such a relief that, you know, it's like, hey, I can be myself, right? I can be
Yep.
Caesar, and you know, you help others and you help your, right, you stay in your path. And I
Yep.
think something you said now just triggered, I think the best way possibly to describe is my sobriety journey, right? I was always suppressing something, right? It was just trying to
Absolutely.
suppress an emotion, pain, anger, whatever, right? All this stuff that I used to never share anything, right, growing
Yep.
up. And so I was, you know, I mean, some things gotta give, right, at some point. So, and now I use, you know, that as, you know, as a motivation, right? Is like, listen, uh, I know that you know, that pain, that suffering, you know, it led me to now be who I am, right? I mean, it wasn't always great, but you know,
Yeah.
I own that, and you know, while for now and hopefully forever, I left that behind, but it's always there as well, right? So we got to be
Yeah.
aware, but use that, you know, not in a negative way. Is like, listen, we all have regrets, we all have pain, but how can you, you know, look at it, how you look at it, and then it's going to change your behavior and how you carry that throughout your life.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. I mean, it really is empowering. And like you said, I remember when, when I got indicted and was facing federal prison,
Uh-huh.
I knew of maybe a couple people that had been to prison.
Yeah.
Um, but man, when that came out and I was going through that, it's amazing how many people come out of the woodwork and
Yeah.
they had either been or a family member or friend of theirs had,
Yeah.
and that gave me, I don't know if comfort's the right word, but there was people to talk to, to get, an understanding of what to expect and things like that. And so, posting and being authentic and vulnerable is just, to me, it almost is like, it almost gives you a different level of power. I don't know if the power
Yeah.
is the right word, but
Yeah.
it just because of the response, you just know that was the right thing and that you're probably helping somebody.
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah.
to me, that's what life's all about. I have to say it all the time, is there's nothing that makes me feel better than when I'm helping somebody else out. It doesn't matter what business, what car, how much money I make, none of that stuff compares to just helping a brother or sister out, whether I know them or not,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's yeah. Even if you change, right, one person's life,
Exactly.
or their outlook, and it means a lot, right? Because I remember when I first went to my first meeting, there was one guy that I connected with that he had a fantastic influence, right? That opened up that judgment, said, perhaps I will stick around and see, right? He seems to be a guy that has it together or has a good head. And then, how can we pay it forward and how we can help others? And we can't do that if we don't put it out there, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's great stuff, man.
yeah.
So how many kids do you have now?
We have one, still one.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It was funny because I always wanted a daughter. And you know, my wife, she's the only daughter, and she didn't want a big family. So I guess we got lucky. I was glad to have, and yeah, she's a wonderful girl. You know, she's 12 years old, great heart,
Oh, that's great.
just a, you know, great soul.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, yeah,
Nothing like daddy's little girl, huh? Is there?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I've got four boys and a little girl that's not so little anymore. She's 18. We
Oh,
adopted her.
yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I'm pretty blessed. But I just last week had my second granddaughter. So
Oh,
pretty
congrats.
blessed. Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty
Oh,
amazing. Yeah, I've got my first one was 11 months old. And
yeah.
then, yeah, man, they're
Oh,
pretty awesome.
that is
Definitely.
great.
So
That is great.
let's move forward now. So, we've talked about your deal with alcohol and stuff. So professionally, what have you done business wise and stuff? You know, I know you've worked with a lot of big companies. What's the right word for it in the hotels and resorts, maybe?
Yeah,
Words on
yeah,
the tip of my tongue.
hospitality.
Yeah, hospitality. That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Is that what you're still involved in today, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, correct. Yeah, still in hospitality. You know, that's what I studied. So I studied
Oh, cool.
hospitality. Yeah, I was a horrible student. So, you know, not like I had many options.
Did
So
that have anything to do with bringing it to the US, or were you
yeah, exactly. That's how I
okay?
got. Yeah, after I studied college, I got here actually to Atlanta to do what I thought would be a 1 year internship.
Internship.
You know,
You're
just
still
kind of
here.
yeah,
Still
just
there.
1 year. And then that hotel extended my visa. Then I met Laura at a park here, you know, Piedmont Park. You probably know it, you know, since you've been, you know, in
Yeah.
Midtown. And yeah, and then, you know, just stayed here, and then we moved a little bit to Texas, Florida. We came back, and I was always so always with hotels. I was in the sales area of hotels, so trying to get people to stay in a hotel or several hotels. You know, it's a fantastic industry. You know, a lot of great people, very, very social, and I think, you know, in many ways it made it easier for me, right, to keep my lifestyle going because, you know,
Oh yeah.
like daily, not necessarily daily, but, you know, very frequent receptions or events happens,
Yep.
right? So that can easily be hidden, right? Because it's, hey, this is kind of right. You're always networking. Um, but I think too, you know, something that you know, my life and our life as a family, wow, it's so much better. It's funny because, you know, now I'm 43, and every year keeps getting better. You
Yep.
know, like when you think, man, you know, like this can get much better, and boom, gets better. You know, so thankfully, professionally, you know, have been tremendous so far. You know, what a fantastic company, great culture, great teams, and you know, that helps a lot, of course. You know, and then translates into everything. So yeah, I was in hotels, and you know, as your mind get more clear, you get better mentally, physically,
Yep.
and emotionally. Certainly for me, it has translated, you know, into, you know, enjoying the work more, right?
Yeah.
Progressing in my career, and just finding purpose, right? Finding purpose between your work and what you can do to help others, right? And I always felt that these two would be separate.
Yeah.
You know, either you do one or the other, and I'm seeing more and more that you kind of can bring it together, right? And really one can facilitate the other, and that has been a lot of fun. So thankfully, in a great place.
That's cool. When you got sober, because of being in that industry early on, was it challenging at all?
It was.
How did you deal with that? I mean, with
It
just
was hard.
communicating and telling people, or how did
Yeah,
you
it
do it?
was hard because for many reasons, right? I mean, one, like I was always in the mix of every party, every event. You know, everyone always know me like for drinking everything, right? So how do you suddenly then, you know, you stop
Yeah.
without saying that, hey, man, you know, like, you know, I'm, you know, an alcoholic, and so that has been an interesting journey, right? In the
Yeah.
beginning, like, hey, you know, I just, you know, I'm not doing it tonight, or, you know, you know, trying to lose weight or whatever the case. But yeah, it was challenging. I think especially for me, the first 6 months to the first year
Oh, but
was
yeah.
challenging, because, you know, you have those, you know, I mean, I don't know how it is with pills. I never did pills, and like, you know, not a lot of drugs. And so that was never really got me hooked. It was more the drinking, but like, you know, you crave, right? You crave.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was very hard, but I just kept, you know, like, hey, you know, just
Well,
don't
I'm not
screw it
doing
up today, you know?
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, how is it with pills? Is this any different or
No,
not
it's pretty
really?
much the same, you know. You definitely
Yeah,
have the cravings, and I think, you know, like you get to the point where you have to have a purpose, you know,
yeah,
if it's your daughter, if it's whatever, you know. But you just have to also just get to that point where you're just not going to deny that you got a problem and you're willing to do what it takes. That doesn't mean, you know, it's not going to be tough, because there's times it's going to, but I know I remember this when I was going through aftercare, and it's been true for sure. If, you know, if you have a bad day or whatever that triggers you and you've got that craving, but you don't have access to the pills, you're going to 99% of the time be safe.
yeah,
And the opposite is true too. If pills somehow appear in a cupboard that you're opening, you know, whatever,
yeah,
but you're, you know, healthy and
yeah,
you know, working things and have already worked on getting your mind right and stuff, you're going to be safe for the most
yeah,
part 99.9% of that time.
yeah.
But if you have a bad day and somehow pills somehow are in front of you,
Around,
you're going to likely be screwed, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it just comes down to really, like, you going to the meetings and doing the work,
yeah,
so that, you know, and then having accountability people
yeah,
early on is critical too, you know.
yeah,
But it's the more time that goes on, just like you've experienced, I'm sure, you know, the easier it is. And I've been
yeah,
one to, I still like to, you know, I still look at it the same way. As I don't believe in stating you know, I'm in recovery or I was an addict,
yeah,
you know, because to me, and I hate this line, even though there's truth to it, but I don't like it, because subconsciously how it affects us is relapse is part of recovery.
yeah,
Because if you buy that line and believe it,
yeah,
and I know it teaches that, you know, but we don't understand the power of the mind, you know, the
yeah,
subconscious,
yeah,
because really what we're doing is we're suggesting that it's okay.
yeah,
And not that it's bad if you relapse, because I did one time, but it's just putting that in the mind that you'll be okay, you know,
yeah,
and some people won't be,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, because most of the time from a drug standpoint, you you go right back to where you left off. So if I was taking
yeah,
30 pills a day, it's most likely going to be there, if not the first day, within a day or two.
yeah,
And where your body's recovering them back to, most of the time you're not gonna be able to handle that.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
it's a once again, it's a balance, and it's personal perspective and
yeah,
how people choose to deal with it. I'm not saying it's the right way, it's just the right way for me,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, 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 yeah. I agree. Like, listen, if I could have done without relapsing, awesome. To me, it
Yeah.
would be
Bottom
fantastic.
line is you're
But
there.
yeah,
You
but to
know.
me, you know, as you said, it helped me gain clarity that,
Yeah.
hey, to me, this is the only way, right? So to me, like, it's not even a question anymore. It's like in the beginning when I was getting cravings, I was always my man, you know, okay, you choose this or you choose your family, you choose your
Yeah.
life, because now
Yep.
this is the choice. There's no more messing around. You know, thankfully, you know, now, you know, I'm in a better place. But in the beginning, that's what kept me going. Is like, listen, man, it's like, it's simple, right? So I just try to cut all this noise and cut it down. Okay, you always have a choice, but these are the choices and this is going to happen. So which one do you want?
Yeah. Yeah, that's critical, like you said. And it's just, yeah, it's just having that clarity and then deciding what's important when those temptations creep up. And if you can just always have that to, to latch on to, then most of the time going to be okay. So
yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, dude, you've done a lot. That's congratulations on sober for 8 years.
I know and that's why I'm very curious about this test that I do. I don't know when I'm going to get the test, and then they're going to help me just understand the results and consultation for like 6 months, because as you're saying, right, I don't know at what point, because choice, right, plays some part in it, right? I mean, no one chooses, right? Let me just be clear. No one chooses to be an addict, right? At least I don't think so. I don't know anyone that is recovery that said, oh man, I wanted to be an addict, right? I strive to be, but certainly, right, choices play, I think, a little bit, that leads into it. And then also choices to get you out of it. And that's what I'm trying to figure out with this. I think they give like 185 biomarkers of the DNA, and it explains, hey, listen, this is all your DNA, and then this is kind of behaviors will trigger X, Y, and Z, and then hopefully it'll give some more clarity, because it still puzzles me, like as you open the podcast, like when did that become a problem? I mean, I know when I was like really messed up, but I'm sure it was a problem way before that,
for sure. It's definitely interesting how it all works, but there's no doubt I didn't choose it. I remember one time I was so desperate, my grandmother had passed away unexpectedly, and I remember we were able to see her at the hospital because she had surgery, and then the day before Christmas, I think it was like 2 days before Christmas or 3. And then the day before Christmas, she was still in there and she threw a blood clot, and my dad was a dentist, so he was working. So my mother called me because I was running a business of my dad's, and she just said there was a code red. I needed to come to the hospital. And from the distance I had to go to where my dad's office was, by the time his staff got to him and got him out of, whatever procedure he was doing, and we hit the elevator at the same time. And he didn't know yet, because my mom called me on the way down, said she didn't make it, and she threw a blood clot to her lung. And so I had to tell him, but when we were in the room before they took her body, I just remember telling her, help me, because I was using and I was sick of it, but I didn't know, what options there were, anything. Because back then, like you say, this was 2000. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't a big deal, and I don't know, for some reason, I just remember that there wasn't anything significant that happened that helped me, but it's like, I didn't know who to turn to. I just knew that I just still believed that she knew, I was there and what I was saying, even though physically she was gone, but it was kind of a weird situation, but it's a interesting deal. We don't know why some of us succumb to it, some of us don't, but there's obviously issues from, like you say, DNA and things like that, and other family members, and maybe for some people it has nothing to do with that. I don't know. I think a lot of it could, honestly, like you said, I believe 100% that there is underlying event, trauma or whatever it is, and I think that until an addict or alcoholic, or even someone that's abusing porn or abusing food or whatever the addiction is, if we don't figure out the underlying reason, then relapse will always be part of it, and you probably will never recover. You'll just continue to stop and start and stop and start, if you even stop it, And so that's what I challenge people to do is, it's painful work sometimes, depending on what it is, and that's what you got to go figure out. because if you do, then if you can deal with that, then it makes dealing with the addiction or the alcoholism so much easier.
Yeah.
Because we're masking something,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
the issue. What is it?
Exactly. Yeah. You hit it right on. Unless you're, vulnerable, you really take a deep look inside and, and reflect internally. It's like, hey, without BS, it's like, what's going on, and how can, what do you need to change to make this? Yeah, if without that, I'm there with you. I don't think that's possible. Maybe possible for, a period of time, but eventually
Right.
it's gonna
That's
come back.
100%. It's just a matter how long is that span between, because it's coming again.
Yeah.
But that's something I'd like to challenge people with, that I still try to do. I'm not perfect by any stretch. Is, why is it that we don't do the inner work? Why is it that, why is that not taught? Why is that not part of becoming healthy? Because number one, it would help with the topic we're talking about. Yeah. But I also believe, and I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole here, but I also believe that we are so much more than we even understand.
Yeah.
And we have so much more power that we don't even know, because of society and just the way that we're trained that things are and supposed to be. And so we just accept it and go along. My dad used to often say, is like, why is it that we get our car's oil changed every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, whatever, but we never do, he used to say, a checkup from the neck up,
Well,
and if you think about it, it makes so much sense. We take better care of our freaking stuff
than ourselves.
Than we do ourselves. Right? That's backwards.
Wow. Yeah, that puts it in perspective.
Doesn't it?
Spot on. Yeah.
It used to come and it'd grab you right there, right behind the bone there, and it'd say, "How's your oil? How's your oil level?" And anyway, but yeah, that's something I think that is important that we do, and our people choose to do that. There's tons of different things out there, tons of different things to do, but really just taking care of yourself. If that's exercise, it's exercise. If it's meditation, it's meditation. But
exactly.
Really, it comes down to, because we like I said earlier, we have to love ourselves, and that's not easy, especially if you have underlying issues that you don't even know are subconsciously affecting you. So
and that's what I hope for, especially the new generation. I see a lot in these younger people that I think they're kind of more emotionally smart. I don't know how accurate or not. That's my take. And I think they're, more aware,
I agree.
more open-minded. I think also parenting styles, right, have evolved, where it's not so much of like, hey, this is the way, and there's no talks, right? Is more. So I don't know. Hopefully that's going to help, because even with our daughter, right, I haven't shared everything, but she definitely knows, right, that I'm sober, that I used to drink too much, because I got to figure out the timing on everything, because I want her to have all that information to hopefully make smarter decisions than I did, right? I mean, at least she knows, hey, listen, very likely you can easily follow my steps, right? So, so hopefully, with awareness and with knowledge, that, hopefully you have less and less people, going through what we did, and if and when that happens, hopefully they figure out the problem way quicker than, decades down the line.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, cool. Do you have any last words for any of the listeners?
No, listen, I think, to your point, if you're going through something, I think it's important to know that, this is a disease, right? It's not your fault, and, that you're loved by you, by your family and others. And, asking for help is a great first step, right? It won't be easy, but ask for help, and that's a great step. Once you start to get help, knowingly you can never go back, right, to how you were
Yeah.
doing. And hopefully that's going to lead to betterment. And then, for friends or families that are, like our spouses that stuck around, I think, just also the more knowledge they can get, support groups, because certainly it's very tough emotionally on them too.
Yeah.
And hopefully find that balance between, taking care of themselves, right, supporting their loved one, and hopefully helping, have a good solution for all. But there's hope. There is hope.
Absolutely. There's always hope. Well, man, I appreciate you being here. Is there any place that people can, reach out or follow you anywhere that you want to put out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Easiest way is really via LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay.
So, just enter my name there, Cesar, Cesar, last name is Wurm, Wurm. So Cesar Wurm. I think I'm the only guy with that name in the US. So you see it there. And yeah, I would love to, talk to anyone, help, can share my phone or whatever. And, because people help me to be where I am. And the least I can do is to, help someone that needs and wants it.
Yep. Well, that's great. I'll put that in the show notes, so it'll make it easy for everybody. But man,
Yes,
I appreciate you, Cesar, and congrats on 8 years. And yeah, let's stay in touch for sure. I'll have to
yes,
come
sir.
when I get to Atlanta.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate. Thanks for all the work you're doing. The podcast. Congrats on beautiful life you build, and the
Thank you.
and keep doing the great work.
Okay, man. I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir.
Talk
all
to
right.
you soon.
Take care. Bye bye.